ESPN reports Kevin Durant flew straight to New York from Toronto to get an MRI on that injured Achilles. Many believe it is torn. Yahoo's Chris Haynes reports KD was nowhere close to 100% when he came back to play Monday night. Got to give it to KD. He did fight valiantly to get back on the court, though. We have got Bleacher Report's Ric Bucher in the house. Rick, what's going on with KD?
Well, ultimately, a lot of people are interpreting him going to New York as a distrust of the Warriors doctors, that he's going in another direction. My understanding is that he's meeting with the same doctor that did Kobe Bryant's Achilles. So this is more a matter of, I want to go to somebody who has a track record, who's dealt with this at a high level, as opposed to, I'm done with the Warriors and I no longer trust them. We may get to that point with them as it seeps in what he has in front of us. I do know that he blocked out all of the people that were telling him, this is a bad bet. This is a risk not worth taking. For the last week leading up to this, playing in this game, he basically went dark on them. And he was only listening to the people that were supporting the idea that he wanted, which is, I want to find a way to get back on the court.
Because you kept telling us that a lot of his inner circle was saying, don't do it.
Okay. It's a bad risk. And ultimately, we knew this all along. KD wanted to play. And the question is going to be, as he looks at it, did the Warriors lead me into this decision where they could have protected me from myself because they know that I want to play? And they had to know. And I will say this. No matter what, the Warriors cannot say that they didn't know that this was a possibility. Now, whether they were telling KD it's a possibility or it's a probability, as the people that I talked to said, that's going to be the question. How did they portray it? And did they portray it accurately? Because when it happened, I have to tell you, it was not a surprise. It was a disappointment, but not a surprise.
Okay, do you believe the Warriors knew there was a pre-existing Achilles issue, that there was some kind of fraying or micro tear or maybe even partial tear?
The question is where it was and whether it was in the Achilles, because I can only go by what they have said publicly, and whether they knew privately, they haven't disclosed that to anybody that I'm talking to, that they knew there was an Achilles issue. Now, I've also heard with this type of thing, even if it was an Achilles tear, there's nothing you can really do about it. You can try to protect it. I had one physician was surprised that he wasn't wearing anything, any kind of a sleeve, anything to kind of protect that he just went out there as is. That was a shock. So how much they knew, and this is part of the issue, to be honest with you, is the fact that it has not been clear from the very beginning. He goes from he can't even play in a 3-on-3 in a practice to now he gets a practice and now he's full good to go. It's just up and down. Where are we? Not full disclosure. And that makes you question, did they do this in order to continue to chase a championship, knowing what they could sacrifice, and ultimately got what they wanted, which is, we got another game at Oracle. We got another $3-5 million because we got a whole game. We still have the hope of making Skip Bayless look good and winning in 7. Was that informing their decision, knowing that, you know what, but this might cost KD his next season?
Go ahead, Shannon.
Because when you look at it, Rick, is that Boogie Cousins didn't practice one game and just start playing.
Right.
They let Boogie practice and practice and practice and practice, and then they played him. And for Steve Kerr, now I don't know if this is true, but Steve Kerr said it was relayed to him that he could not hurt himself any worse than he already was. If I'm not mistaken, the very thing that they probably told Isaiah Thomas when he was in Boston. Now, it's also, Skip, in 2017, Boston let their medical staff go. Now, quietly, I'll give it a year, 6 months, they're going to dismiss this medical staff because this is bad for business.
Yeah.
You can't have that guy out there miss a month, and then you bring him back in there, not on a minutes restriction, and this happens to him. You watch what I tell you. Now, Kevin Durant it's going to be very interesting over the next, say, week to month, what starts to seep out, and what was Kevin Durant told, and what was he led to believe. KD, you can't hurt it any worse than it already is, bro. Go out there and give us what you can. And now this man is not going to be able to play until 2021. The Warriors are wrong for this. Because, Rick, the thing that I asked Skip earlier today is that if the Warriors had a 3-1 lead, would they have played Kevin Durant?
Yeah.
Because if you answer no, you should not have played him in this situation, because then you're telling me it was all about the win and not this man's well-being.
I feel as if this has informed the Warriors the entire time. There's been a desperation and a willingness to push the envelope. Andre Iguodala has told me I shouldn't really be playing right now, and yet he is playing. Now, he's in a different phase of his career, so you could argue, okay, weighing all of the sacrifice and the risk. Klay Thompson, in terms of where he is, they decided not to go game 3, but ultimately, we know how they handle their athletes and their players normally, which is, we're going to rest you, we're not going to take risks. If this is a regular season situation, there's no way that any of these guys would be playing. But it's a matter, and looking around the corner, is this really our last best shot? We're not going to win 3. This is our shot to win 3 in a row. Where does that put us in the pantheon of franchises? Sure. All of that is at stake here. The one other element, Chelsea Lang was on their training staff last year. What I've been told is they were slow to give her a contract. Now, people were singing her praises. I've even had one surgeon tell me if she was still here, he wonders if all of this would have evolved and where they had gone.
And then what happened?
She went to the Hawks. She went with Travis Schlenk, who left the Warriors, knew how valuable she was.
Because she was working miracles with Steph.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, look, it's not fair to say that she could have prevented this, but she was one more person who was exemplary when it came to their medical staff, who they let go, who was now not part of the decision-making process when it came to KD.
Okay. So the most troubling statement of all I've seen from a national reporter was from our guy Chris Haynes, Yahoo's Chris Haynes. He comes here occasionally and contributes to this show, as you do. And Chris, who's close with Kevin, went so far as to say Kevin Durant was nowhere near 100% for Game 5. My eye test told me before the game that the quote-unquote calf strain looked like it was 100%, because I watched him warm up. There was no flinch, there was no grimace, there was no protecting, there was no favoring. He was full bore, full speed, pushing off, jumping, and to your point, no sleeve. There was no indication of any calf inflammation anymore.
Dunked in pregame.
Right, he was dunking. Okay, so that injury seemed to be in his rear view, yet Chris Haynes is saying nowhere close to 100%. Well, now I can only speculate, or maybe even jump to assume that there was something going on with the Achilles that was troubling Kevin, and that Kevin assumed the risk, because in the end, it's up to him, and he has to say, I'm going to die for the cause, quote unquote. I'm going to give myself up for my team because I love my team. And to Shannon's point, KD is very thin-skinned on social media, and I'm sure he felt like he was taking a beating. Come on, they've look what Clay rushed back and DeMarcus rushed back, and
but not even just social media. Like in the locker room, the feeling, the frustration. Where is he? The same thing that Kawhi Leonard went through with San Antonio. Are you with us or are you not with us?
Talk to him, Rick. Talk to Skip.
Can you play?
I need you to talk to Skip.
Can you play?
Yeah, but one guy was hurt and one guy wasn't. But that's a whole nother issue.
Don't do that, Skip. Don't do that, Skip.
I'm doing it. So it is interesting to me that Kevin went to New York. He is also very close with Dr. Marty O'Malley, who did his Jones fracture surgery in 2015. Remember, it took 3 surgeries to fix that, and Marty O'Malley finally fixed it. He's the Nets team surgeon, also contributes to the Giants. But in the end, it wasn't like Kevin stayed home and said, I'll just trust these doctors, because they got good orthopedics there also, obviously. He did go to New York, and that's a small indication to me that I'm not still with Golden State. You know, I get it. You want to go see other more prominent surgeons.
For sure. The fact that he's not having the MRI with the Warriors and having them examine it and then saying, I'm going to go see this other physician is an indicator that there may be a parting of the ways here.
Rick, we're going to keep you around for the next segment. So we got
Dr. Neil Elatrosh did Kobe surgery.
Yeah, Rick. I think he did. But anyway, go ahead.
Up next, we're going to get y'all to make some predictions, Shannon. I know you'll be ready to weigh in on this one. Will the Raptors close out the Warriors tomorrow?
Yes,
We're
Shannon.
discussing that up next.